Good morning to everyone, and welcome again to our Rays of Light interviews. This came about. I felt like all I was hearing was bad news everywhere I turned, and it seemed like, especially if I turned on social media, it was usually bad about me, but bad about other people as well. And so I thought, we've got so much good going on in our community, and we are so blessed. And I thought each month I want to try to focus on some of the blessings instead of the negativity that's always out there. So today, I think we're extremely blessed to have two of our brave firefighters with us. And I'm going to let Michelle, you and Colin, if y'all will, and I know I should be using Lieutenant Halligan. And anyway, but if y'all will, just tell us a little bit about who you are, what your job is in the fire department, and then we'll get into more about the interview. So Michelle, you want to go first?
Sure. Michelle Cranford. I work for the fire department in public education. So my role now is to go mostly into the schools and teach fire safety to Forsyth County students. But truly that's a large part of my job, but truly we teach, we say anywhere from 0 to 99. We do everything from car seats. We help our elderly community with smoke alarms. But like I said, the bulk of our role is to be in the school systems teaching.
And I bet a lot of people don't even realize we do that. And Lieutenant Halligan?
So Lieutenant Halligan is currently assigned to Station 9 off of Brownsbridge Road in kind of northeast Forsyth County. But the bulk of my responsibilities ensure overseeing basically engine company operations and with the personnel assigned to me at that station on my shift. So we handle medical emergencies, fire emergencies, other various emergencies. So really anything in terms of an emergency situation deemed by the 911 caller. In addition to that, other responsibilities that we have at Station 9 include our dive rescue and our dive recovery, both for the county, but also to assist other agencies in their time of need. And then when we're not training or we're not running calls, we're out doing pre-plans or business, I don't want to say inspections, but more familiarization in case we have calls at those locations throughout the shift. But also when we're at residence or at other businesses, if we notice anything, maybe if they're lacking smoke alarms, things like that, we can go ahead and try to either create or fix that problem there, or we can put them in touch with, like Michelle with PubEd, to go ahead and facilitate that change.
And Michelle, you've been with the fire department 21 years?
Yes, ma'am. 21 years.
And you've been how long? 10 years. I just saw it on my sheet.
Yes, ma'am. 10 years with Forsyth County, and then 15 years total with the previous department.
That is fabulous. And we're so fortunate. I told people so many times that I didn't realize until my mother started to fall and started having health issues of her own, what all the fire department does that we don't even, that most people just think the fire department puts out fires. And, you know, that there's so much more to that job in going out and helping the elderly and helping, you know, just a million different things. And that y'all are most of the time the first on the scene and able to help our citizens with whatever crisis they might be facing. And I was so thrilled when I was at the award luncheon for the school system to hear that you guys, the Forsyth County Fire Department, was the recipient of the Don Hendricks Partnership Award. That's particularly moving to me because I received that award years ago, and I knew Don Hendricks. I knew what he stood for, and you know how hard he worked in the school system to improve it and make it better. And that made me, I remember meeting him for the first time at a school board meeting when the school board offices were in where Tams is at now. The old upper elementary is what we called it, that grew up here. And it was, it was just a tiny little room when you think about what we've got now, you know, in the way of the county and the school system. And it was a room maybe that would hold 50 people, and it was packed. And I thought Don Hendricks was a reporter because he carried this tiny little notepad, just that he could hold in the palm of his hand. And he just took note after note. And finally, my curiosity got the best of me. And I asked him, I said, do you work for a paper or something? He said, no, I'm just really interested in our school system. And his kids were at Big Creek Elementary then. And anyway, he wound up being a longstanding school board member that started local school council and a lot of really innovative strategic planning for the school system. I really believe that our school system's where we are today is one of the best in the state because of what all he did back then. So I was honored to receive that award because it meant so much to me knowing him. And then I was especially proud of you guys receiving it. So can you talk about that a little bit, what it felt like to, and why you think y'all received the award or were noticed for what you were doing? Describe that a little bit.
For me, I think, our role is we're in the school, and I have to also be thankful to, one of the board members, Wes McCall, because he was really instrumental this year in getting all the buy-in from the schools and whatnot, especially, when we were trying to go in after COVID and they didn't want anybody in the schools. So he really did help us a lot, but we were able to get in there. We have programs really from K through fourth grade where we're present in the schools, teaching them fire safety, injury prevention, just how to be a little bit safer in life and keep their homes a little bit safer. And we're really proud that people did take notice. More so, not for the acknowledgement, but more so because now they're having us come in more. So for me, the best part about the award is they know that we're there, and that the schools that weren't having us come in now are calling us and saying, hey, come in and teach our kids too. So that was the biggest thing for us.
Yeah, raising awareness, which is what y'all are wanting to do too for the for fire safety. What about you, Lieutenant?
Certainly, I think it's a great achievement for the department overall. There's with Michele, for example, in community risk reduction and the amount of time and effort that they put into the schools. But even if they are not in the schools themselves, getting the different stations involved and making everyone involved across the board to really facilitate that education and to drive home some of that information to the families, and also reaching out and just having the opportunity to be there, to be present, and to be able to interact with the community in that positive time of need. Unfortunately, seems like a lot of our interactions tend to be more on the negative side, especially the more serious the call is. But it's nice to see that positive impact and that those positive relations start to form.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So tell me a little bit about how you partner with the school system, like the programs, the different people you touch in the school system and how you're able to help them with their jobs.
We have our education programs also, and I want to point out too that part of the interaction with the school also fell on our training department, specifically our EMS training division, who went into the school and trained all the nurses and then the teachers how to do Stop the Bleed. And it was a big program, and we actually did get some feedback from one of the schools that they actually had to use what they learned in the program the very next day for a student, probably saving that student's life. So
I remember that being in the paper, and what a big, it really was life-saving.
Yeah, yes, Rick Hamilton and his team on the EMS side of things here went in and they canvassed the schools, taught first the nurses, and then taught the teachers all Stop the Bleed. Aaron, my supervisor, and our team will go in and we will teach, how to get out if there is a fire from kindergarten to 5th grade. We go into the middle schools as well, and we start teaching CPR. High school will start to teach Stop the Bleed even to the students as well. Really just anything life safety and anything fire prevention. If they'll let us in, we will come and teach it for sure.
Do y'all look for volunteers to help with the program, or have y'all got it covered?
We do. It's a little complicated in the schools with people being able to come into the schools like they used to. And I completely understand that from a security standpoint. So not so much with those programs, but we do run other things through the community. We run large events like our trunk or treat and other big events. And usually you can find that kind of information on our Facebook page. And when we're looking for help with programs, the Forsyth County Fire Department Facebook would be the place to go if you wanted to get involved with community events like that.
So when you were planning your career in life, did you see yourself being a firefighter always, or working in the fire department? And what do you like best about your job, Lieutenant?
Each day is a unique day. That's probably the most attractive aspect of it. And then of course the relationships that you build with everyone, both in your station, out of your station, and then across the entire department. As a young child, I always looked up to the fire department, the fire trucks as they were kind of going down the road, kind of that big kid that seemed really neat, really just really exciting. So it was something that I always had an interest for, passion, had some family members that were involved in the fire service, and that passion just never really left. And so when I had the opportunity to become a firefighter, I jumped at it and very glad that I made that decision.
Ms. Cranford?
I don't know that it was always a dream. I came on about 20 something years ago, and very few females in that role then when I started as a firefighter. I started on the EMS side of things. Again, just like Lieutenant Halligan said, I grew up in a very blue collar neighborhood in New York City. So we really did learn to respect these type of workers, firefighters, police officers, EMS. So it felt natural because my father was also an EMT in New York, and kind of a tradition thing up there. So it did feel natural, but I did eventually go to the fire side. And I was unsure about it at first. Like I said, there weren't a lot of females there, but loved it as soon as I got into it.
We're proud to have females working in fire. I think that's wonderful. And it brings a different perspective lots of times. And I'm sure it's comforting for people to have a female. Some people, it's just nourishing to some people to have that comforting. So thank you for pursuing that. So what would y'all say is, I know that we're always looking for new recruits and trying to hire people, and it's a difficult thing to do in the county and lots of departments nowadays. But if you were giving a elevator speech to somebody of why would they want to be a firefighter, or why would this be a good career, what would you say?
If I would start on that, I always tell people, and I always tell kids, the old saying, and I hope I don't mess it up, where if you do what you love, you never feel like you're working a day in your life.
Yeah.
I love my job. I come in every day. I've never one time woken up and complained about going to work in the morning.
Lieutenant?
I would certainly second that Michelle said. I would also add, if you want to go to work and find a passion in something that's going to challenge you possibly every day or between all your calls, while also building and forming those relationships with your coworkers and your supervisors, and at the same time having a community that's going to support you and take care of you, you can't ask for a better career, you can't ask for a better place to work. It truly, like Michelle said, it's truly a passion, and it's enjoyable to come to work.
Well, I know that the community thanks you both for what you do. Let's end on something comical. What's a funny thing the kids have said to you before at the school? Or what's the most common question that you get?
We, rightfully so, when we're talking about getting out from a fire, the kids are always concerned about their pets. Very, very concerned about their pets. And so we've had to start kind of, how can we include them in the plan? So I had a child a few weeks ago who asked me about his fish. And then I went through this whole thing on how I had a whole escape plan for his fish. And I said, well, if you take a bowl and you keep it out next to him, maybe somebody can just scoop it out on the way out. Maybe one of the adults can include him in the plan. And then he looks at me and says, well, what if that fish is in the wall? What if that you can't take that tank? So after this entire thing of trying to make a home escape plan for the fish. I said, does that answer your question about your fish? He looks at me and says, I don't have a fish. And I said, oh my goodness.
Oh, no. Lieutenant, do you have any funny stories?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily one, but I think it's learning when you learn to interact with different age groups and learning very early on that, especially with 3, 4, 5-year-olds, you cannot ask them if they have any questions because every one of their hands will go up. And instead of a question, you end up with essentially a dissertation and you have no clue or no telling what is going to come out of their mouth. Quite often it's hilarious, but again, just understanding, learning those age groups. It's always fun to interact.
I just think it's wonderful the way y'all care about our schools and you're involved in the school and very deserving of winning this award because it's highlighting something that's so important in our community that gives back so much to the community. And I just want to brag on y'all and say thank you. Thank you for what all you do for our community. Thank you for all the ways you give back. And we're very, very lucky and I'm grateful that we have you. So we will end this now and just thank everybody that watches this and hope that it gives you a little bit of ray of light in your life and gives you something to be grateful for. Thanks so much. I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.